Welcome to Live from My Office. It's the podcast, and it's sponsored by David Hochberg and Team Hochberg. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And the good people at Apt Electronics, my friend Steve Shapiro and the brothers that run Apt. Look, they're good people. And they gave me a whole stack of gift cards to give away. Off the top of my head, I know Mary is a recent winner, Daniel as well. It's simple. All you have to do is send me an email at thecochronshow@gmail.com. Include at least 3 of your friends' names and emails. What am I going to do then? I'm going to drop them a note, an email, and I'm going to tell them you should listen to the podcast like your friend does and include a link to the podcast. And we'll see if we can grow the audience even bigger. For helping me out, you will get an Apt gift card. And that'll be easy. I'll just drop it in the mail to you. So don't forget to include your address when you drop me that email at thecochronshow@gmail.com. thecochronshow@gmail.com. Again, 3 of your friends and their emails, your contact info. I'll take it from there. On this Live from My Office, we're talking about college and specifically the University of Illinois as an example of the same. They're having a tremendous amount of success in stemming the tide of COVID-19 taking over the campus like it has at Notre Dame and different places. And I'm going to talk to my old friend Andrea Darlas about it. Andrea Darlas, everybody. You love Andrea. She was on the radio with me for years, over 20 years at GN Radio and WGN TV. And then her old alma mater came calling and said, Andrea, ditch Cochran and come over and work for us. And she did. And she's happy and she's doing a great job. Can't wait to talk to Andrea about what's going on at the University of Illinois. I tell you what, I feel badly for kids going off to school, whether they're new or they're going back. It's just not the same. I mean, you want to go to college and have a kegger? There's no keggers now. There's a sanitizer. That's where you get a big vat of sanitizer, and the party is everybody gets extra spritzes. Oh, it's crazy. Pledging frats? Not so much. Maybe some schools have tried it, but again, you got to be careful. Do they haze anymore? I mean, they're not supposed to, but you can imagine somebody trying to pledge a frat during the COVID-19 era. Nobody's outside. And it's you, and you're just running the quad in your underpants. Hey, Phil, why are you running in your underpants? And pull your mask up. As long as your mask is up, I guess I don't care. And I know you're frustrated. As a guy, look, your mom told you what to do. Now the school's telling you what to do. Look, don't let it get you down. Your mom told you what to do, and I know she gave you good advice. If you've been in a long relationship, you already know this, but if not, you will. And your girlfriend's going to tell you what to do. And then someday your wife is going to tell you what to do. And you know why? Because if they didn't tell you what to do, you would die. We don't do a good job taking care of ourselves. That's why it's good to listen. So this college thing, it'll pass. It's not that big a deal. And eventually you'll get to do stupid things until one of the women in your life straighten you out. We wanted to also talk to Dr. Most and family about what it's like to send your kid off to school. Here's how that's going to work. Dr. Kevin Most will join me to talk about that saliva test that's going on now at the University of Illinois and the success of that. Brad Most is Dr. Most's brother. Brad Most has a son named Mac Most, who's a junior at Illinois, and going to get the perspective of both of them. What's it like to be a student right now? What's it like to be a parent sending your kid back to school right now? And in the course of the conversation, we'll probably get a lot of your questions answered as well. So Andrea Darlas coming up, Kevin Most, Brad Most, and Mac Most all coming up as well as we talk about COVID-19 and the University of Illinois. We'll come back with that next on Live from My Office. Whenever we talk to Mr. Hochberg, it's easy to get a hold of him. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. David, there's so much information out there. Most of it's wrong, by the way, but when does a reverse mortgage actually make sense?
80-year-old father, mother passed away. Father's 80 years old, living in the same home that they had all the kids, 3 kids. Dad's on some type of limited pension or Social Security. He's been living in this house free and clear. The house is over $400,000. And each kid is given dad or was given dad $1,000 a month to take care of dad. Challenge is COVID hits, their income drops. Now that $1,000 that they were giving dad that was readily available is no longer available because they're not working as much or their husband's not working as much or their wife's not working as much. The housing income is down. Now their debt's up because the housing income's down. Okay, and now it's getting tougher to pay that Gino to Dad. In the meantime, Dad's sitting on a $400,000 home. He's 80 years old. For the love of God, I'm like, what are you guys doing? You could take out up to $280,000, gain access to up to $280,000 from Dad's home. Dad needs a new roof. It was like $20,000 for the new roof.
Right, get it done.
I get it. I understand. You got to take care of Dad. You made the promise to Mom before she passed. You're going to take care of Dad. I go, Dad's sitting on 280 G's. Why are you struggling?
Right. You
guys should be using that $1,000 to take care of your family. I'm not saying not take care of Dad, but Dad's sitting on a pile of cash. It frustrates me that people don't see that. But
that's a big part of it. That's a big part of why they need to call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com, because you guys get it. And you can, as you always do, David, you can calmly, rationally explain it to him, because your voice is always a warm hug for people.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Hochberg, he'll cut to the chase when he needs to, because he's just trying to help. This is live from my office, and man, have I got something special for you. Let's go back, for those of you who may have listened to me on WGN for all those years. You might remember there was a beautiful woman that sat near me, a tremendous journalist, a real talent. And, she was thinking in her head, if I could ever get a job at my alma mater, I will dump that creep Cochran as fast as I possibly can. Say hi to Andrea Darlas. How are you?
Hey, Steve, my dear friend. How are you? I miss you, and I think of you every day.
Same here. God, we had fun, didn't we?
Oh, God, we had some of the best times ever in my entire career.
And we both are very worried about Dave Ennett. We haven't spoken with him, but we will. But Dave Ennett, without Northwestern football, I'm afraid he might be just rocking in the corner weeping.
Do you remember one time you and I were playing golf and we were having a decent game and we looked over and Dave was wandering on a different fairway? I think that's kind of how I picture him now, just wandering aimlessly on some fairway in the Northwest suburbs.
It's just, listen, it's just all part of how awful COVID is, because Ennett should be in the broadcast booth doing games. That's where he belongs. And it's just one of the things that's different now. But we have good news. You, first off, to establish, are at the University of Illinois in what job?
Yes, I am the Senior Director of Constituent Engagement. So I'm kind of a media liaison for the Chicago media and the University of Illinois. I'm based in Chicago, and I set up a lot of media appearances for the Chancellor and try and spread the good word any way I can about everything that we're doing in Champaign at the University of Illinois. And
a lot of you may have heard there's really good news about a saliva test. You can put that, Andrea, on the list of things I thought you and I'd never be talking about. But before we get
not in that way, anyway.
Before we get to that, I have heard nothing but compliments from parents of Illini kids about how you guys have handled COVID. Obviously, kids are getting it, kids are spreading it, not intentionally, obviously. But
right.
Can you explain the process of how you're dealing with not having a massive outbreak with the kids back at school?
Steve, honestly, we went back to the science of all of this with this model. And we knew early on when COVID struck, the different scientists went to work trying to create more PPE and the respirator test. I know that you knew about too, the rapid vent.
Yep.
And when it became clear that, all right, these students are going to have to come back at some point. And you're talking 40 to 45,000 students coming back to an area. So they immediately went to work and created this iCovid test. It was called T3 to start with. It was the SHIELD test, and that was the three T's are target, test, and tell.
Okay.
And it was basically to create this test that was non-invasive, because as these tests were starting to come out, and I think you talked about this at one point too, that you had the test, the uncomfortable test where they take the swab and stick it way up into your nose and basically touch a portion of your brain. It's uncomfortable and it's awful. So the scientists at U of I tried to create a test that would eliminate that pain, and hence the saliva test was created. It not only is non-invasive and quick and easy, you spit in a little test tube. We eliminate kind of the middle person, or the middle event, if you will. So instead of 4 points, swabbing, putting it in the bottle, purifying it, and putting in that little PCR box, we eliminate the 2 steps. So it goes right from the saliva collection into the PCR.
Is that how the time is saved?
Yeah, that's how the time is saved. And it's also easier. It is more protective of workers.
Okay.
You know, the workers who are testing this don't have to undo it and reach in and touch the saliva. So it's safer on every level for those healthcare workers too.
So when a kid's at school, a senior to grad student, whatever, where do they get tested? Is testing routine?
That's an awesome question. Yep, it's twice a week. Every single student, they have to do their part too, Steve. They know they're coming back to this hybrid model. And early on, we said we want to do half in-person classes, half online.
Right.
And the whole part of U of I is the college experience, getting back down and being with your friends and in your classrooms. So in order to do this, they set out to try and test 20,000 students a day. At our peak, we will test 20,000 a day. Every student has to get tested twice a week, whether it's Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever your days are. You have to be tested twice a week. There are 40 different testing lines on campus at 20 different locations. They're in huge tents right now, right adjacent to the football field, which isn't being used, as you said before. So there's social distancing. And so far, Steve, since this started in July, we've run 105,000 tests.
It's incredible.
And to give you an indication, that's between 1% and 3% of all of the testing that's going on in the entire country.
Well, it tells you about how you do it right versus how you do it wrong, and obviously the University of Illinois has done it right. Now, take me through the process. You get tested twice a week, but then in your in-person class, what's the access to the class like? Because how does the professor know that you're clean?
So that's an awesome question. That's the third T. So target, test, and tell. We've created an app. It's called Safer in Illinois or Safer Illinois. You can download it. You have to download it. And you get your results on that. So Steve Cochran is tested. He tests, and you get your results in 5 to 24 hours, but it's really more like 5 to 10 hours.
That's
you're tested in the morning, you'll have it in the afternoon. So Steve Cochran gets tested on a Monday. You download the Safer Illinois app. Your results will pop up, say, 5 hours later. Steve Cochran, and you'll get a little green check mark. It'll say access granted. So you use that to get into any building on campus. When you go to class, they used to take attendance. You have to show your app now. And of course, when I'm saying this, Steve, everyone has to wear masks. Masks are mandated all throughout the entire campus. Every time you leave your dorm room, you put your mask on.
So
no matter where you're going.
Even outside on campus property, you got to have a mask on.
Yep. Walking through the quad, walking from class to class, you have to wear your mask on campus.
Well, that's good.
And you get the little green check mark that says building access granted or the red X that says building access denied. And if you get that, you will likely have tested positive for COVID. You immediately let the university know, and we've set aside 400 rooms in which to quarantine students. So they're private, quiet rooms where they can quarantine.
And if they have medical need, obviously you move to the next level from there. But this is a way to keep it controlled. And what's kind of amazing here is you're doing the tracking that we've talked about for months that nobody else has been able to figure out a system to do. So I got to believe that the phone's ringing off the hook with the chancellor going, we need to mass produce this test, and we need to take what you guys are doing and make it standard everywhere.
Yeah, and that's the goal, too. So obviously the University of Illinois being the safe land-grant university, Governor Pritzker is thrilled with this development, too. And we were the focus of he used to do the daily press conferences. Now they're every couple of days. So last week he stood alongside our chancellor, Robert Jones, and our president, Tim Killeen, and said, hey, when you are ready to mass produce this, and that's the next step, Steve. I mean, we're taking all the steps now to try to get this, number one, throughout the entire state of Illinois. Chicago, the suburbs, that's the next step. And they're actively looking at how to safely do that, following state guidelines.
Well, this doesn't just happen since March. Was it an accidental discovery, or is it just, you had the information you had and the super smart kids got together with the super smart adults and made it work?
Kind of a little bit of both. So they basically transformed our vet med program. Our veterinary sciences and our veterinary program is is second to none in the nation too. So I have to brag about that a little bit as well. So they basically transformed the VetMed diagnostic lab into a human COVID-19 testing facility. So they used a lot of these because it was dormant. Everybody went home in March, so they were able to use these on a larger scale. This big testing equipment, and what we had basically on campus for humans. So that's where it all came together with the scientists, the students, the staff, the faculty. They said, let's try and transform this process and kind of lead the state and lead the country in testing. And it's so cool because I'm looking at the stats right now. So once those are going, and I should preface all this by saying, because I know probably parents or students or whatnot are saying, what about privacy and safety? Of course, HIPAA, all the state guidelines, that your privacy is protected 150%. But we're telling students, if you get the positive notice, don't hide it, because obviously this is where you need to quarantine. There's room set aside for you, but the data is just remarkable. It's just illinois.edu if you wanted to ever look at some of the data.
Yeah, I did.
And how it comes in. Yeah, and how it comes in so quickly. And there's charts, and if you look at the graph as of today, as of yesterday, because it's 24 hours. Our testing is from 24 hours ago. The positivity rate is actually going down. So as of yesterday, it's a 0.55%,
which is amazing.
Rate, which is extremely low. Yes, right.
All right. So when a kid is positive and goes to these 400 rooms, is there any sense of community there since everybody knows they have it, or does quarantine mean you're in your room, food's delivered? I mean, I don't want to make it sound like a prison, but what is that like?
No, that's a great question. That's a great question. Yeah, so when you find out, if a student finds out they're positive, they obviously tell the university they're taken to one of these rooms, and it's basically like a private room.
Okay.
And many of the dorms anyway, they can only be two people in a room. Many are now one person, just because, the students had the option of remote learning and e-learning too. So once they find out, they're taken to one of the rooms, and they are tested. They're continuously tested, and they can take their e-classes there too. So it's not like they're completely shut away in a room. They can continue their online learning. Meals are brought to them. So it is a quarantine, and they're not allowed to leave the room per se. But yeah, there is a sense of community between all those students who are there. There's not many. There's really not that many there.
Well, it doesn't sound so with the positivity rate you're running. Other schools around the country, I mean, universities talk to universities. Anybody else doing it this way?
We know Yale does. Yale had a similar test, and they got their FDA approval the day before we did. So when we saw the Yale news, we thought, wait a minute, we've been doing this test for a month longer than they have, and our results are touted as being 8% more effective and quicker. And then, boom, within 24 hours, we got our FDA approval, too.
Typical Yale, taking credit for other people's work.
I know. So, yeah, the next step is to just move it as far out throughout the state and push it to Chicago and the suburbs and hopefully the region as quickly as we can.
The goal is obvious. The goal is, you don't want the kids to be sick, but you also don't want the kids to go home, whether it's on break or to go home in general and make their parents or grandparents sick, because everybody knows by now, the older you get, the more vulnerable you are.
Right.
And we know that, younger people who have pre-existing conditions, like your friend Amy Cochran, she has asthma, and asthma.
Oh, yes.
Asthma is a condition that can be, pretty miserable if you get COVID. So it's just a smart idea to do it the way you've done it. Now, what about pushback? Have you gotten much pushback from families or students?
No, I have to be honest with you. The parents are very concerned, as they should be, and we are too. We want safety's number one, but then we want students to be back in class, back on campus, back together. I think that's everybody's goal as a society, to get back to some form of normalcy. But parents, I think, seem to be very satisfied, very happy. The students are very happy. We're doing all of this with the Champaign County and the Urbana Public Health Departments too. So they're all in conjunction with us too. So I think the sense of community has everybody, and the fact that we're trying to have everybody's backs. We are all in this together. So I think parents see that and sense that, hey, you know what? if there's a positive test, we're immediately going to find out and try and help you every way we can.
Yeah, and I've said it a million times. Nobody wants to wear a mask. Nobody wants to, but you do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of people who cooperate, knocking down the numbers faster so we can get back to what we used to call a normal life. So all you got to do is look at the University of Illinois as a sample of what could be happening if the rest of the country was doing the right thing. So the other question I have before I kind of circle the wagons here and bring this back is a roommate. So if your roommate is diagnosed, what happens to you?
You're tested twice a week, but I mean, if your roommate tests positive, and your day to test isn't for a few more days, you have the option of going to one of these testing centers. And I said there's 20 throughout the campus, 20 different locations. You can go and get tested again. So it's not to say that you have to go Monday, Tuesday. Those are the days that, you're allotted. But if your roommate tests and you feel unsafe or think, hey, you know what, I want to be tested immediately, you have the option of going, scanning your student ID, explaining the situation, and they will absolutely let you in for the
smart.
easy scan system. Yeah,
that's a smart thing to do. All right, so let's recap here. The saliva test is on. How fast it can be mass made and sent to the masses, that's to be determined. But for the sake of your kid going to the University of Illinois, they're in the best possible situation, if they're in fact on campus, that they could be. So what happens again? I walk into the room and I spit in a test tube. Where am I spitting? Who am I spitting on?
It's so easy. You get a little test tube. You're not supposed to eat for 30 minutes or have anything but water before 30 minutes beforehand. You spit in the little test tube. It gets put in the viral transport medium and then goes right to the testing site, which is looks like a safe. Popped right in there, and then you'll get your results. Typically, they say 5 to 24 hours, but our rate has been about 5 hours, Steve. So if you test in the morning, you'll have it by the afternoon. There's 40 different testing lines at 20 different locations in large tents all across campus, socially distant, wearing masks, and then the samples are brought to the vet diagnostic facility every hour. So that's how fast they're testing. And to give you, just to kind of recap what I had said before, so far we have tested, more than 105,000.
That's amazing.
Since this began, and the positivity rate is now down to 0.55%. We've actually seen it gone down. And they know, Steve, that these students are coming. We just started classes earlier this week. We know that students were coming from different parts of the state, the country. So the likelihood of them bringing it to campus was a factor. So they also accounted for the fact that there might be a slight spike. We haven't seen it yet, but as this goes on, that there might be a slight spike. And that's all accounted for in the data and the modeling. That's why the more tests we can do in a shorter period of time and get those results quickly back to you, the better it is for everybody.
No question about it. And lastly, for parents and grandparents, who has the unenviable job of being the mask police on campus? Because somebody's got to walk around and remind, the absent-minded college kid, you don't have your mask up.
I have to say, our public affairs department is fantastic. They're such a joy to work with. There's so many volunteers in the department, within the staff and the faculty, and they are going around. We've had so many Zoom meetings, Steve, with people holding their phone, walking through the quad area with their masks on, saying, okay, so they're kind of these monitors. They're calling them safety monitors, and they're making sure that everybody's masked up. And I know that we have a student union that's a big place to gather for studying and gathering. There's a Starbucks there, too. They've taken all the tables out, so no one can gather. So and the bars and restaurants too, and that's a big part of college. They're being very cautious too. Outdoor seating only, being socially distant, not putting up tables where crowds can gather.
Sure.
So, and I think the students have been so far, again, it's a weekend, but very, very good so far, very mindful. We all want to beat this. And the best way to do it is if we're all for one and one for all.
Yeah, and there's positive peer pressure, right? If your friends are doing it, you're more likely to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you see something, say something, but just wear the masks. And those are being distributed too. The students got a welcome kit with a mask, some hand sanitizer, of course their ID, So that was all part of it this year.
And if a parent or a grandparent has a question, obviously the medical stuff, once the kids have aged, you can't be giving that up. But for the sake of therapy, for the worried parents and grandparents, who do they talk to?
You know what? Honestly, Steve, our website is so great. It's just illinois.edu. And everything is on there. If there's questions, if you want to contact the health department, if you want to speak to somebody, not just have an automated voice, there's phone numbers. I can throw out the phone numbers too.
That's fine. Just illinois.edu is great.
Yeah, illinois.edu is the place to go, and there's a million little links on there. And then you can see some of the graphs that I was telling you about too. You can actually follow along and see how many tests that we're conducting every day and how that positivity rate goes down. It's very easy to read because I'm not a math person or a charts and graphs person, but it's very easy to read and comprehend.
Great job, Andrea Darlas. As previously established, I miss you. And, who knows? We may end up working together again. Hold on, I'm getting handed a note. Oh, I'm not welcome at the University of Illinois. And you love your job.
You are always welcome. I'll get you an orange and blue mask, and I'm giving you a virtual hug because I miss you so much.
You too. All right, take care. Thanks for the update and the information. And ILL.
And I have little masks for Isaac and Abigail.
Oh, that's
so I'll
fantastic.
send those in the mail for you guys.
Please do. Andrea Darlas, everybody. Oh, and can they follow you on social media? You want to throw that out?
Absolutely. It's just at Andrea Darlas. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Follow me.
All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Steve.
Talking about reverse mortgages with David Hochberg. Why does this get a bad rap? I mean, can you really trust these loans?
Here's the deal. My mom was in a wheelchair. She had MS. We converted the living room into her bedroom, bought a hospital bed in there because she couldn't get up and down the stairs. We built the ramp so her mobile wheelchair there could go up and down the stairs.
Sure.
It got to a point where the only asset that my parents had was the house they were living in. So I kept telling them, we need a reverse mortgage. We need a reverse mortgage. They're like, no, I hear bad things about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm in the industry. These are great loans. Paid for the appraisal, paid for the counseling, which we now have a company that we work with that gets grant from HUD, so you don't have to pay for it. Long story short, I was going to put my parents into a reverse mortgage, Steve, if their house appraised for what my dad thought the house was worth. I did everything that I could possibly do to get my parents set up to take out this product. Do you really think I'm going to put my parents into a product that's dangerous, a loan product?
Exactly.
Hell no.
But here's the thing, because you hit on it, and I don't want people to lose this. There's all this information out there. And then there's the myths that are out there. And the myths that are out there is, that's how they get you. That's what my dad would always say about stuff. That's how they get you. That's how they get you. That's how they get your house. They're not taking your house.
It gives you the option. You get a mortgage statement, like any other mortgage statement, and you have the option to make the payment or defer the payment. Okay? And a lot of individuals, experienced homeowners, has the option. You're going to get a mortgage statement. You're a grown person. You've made financial decisions all your life. You could either take that money that you would have set aside for the mortgage payment to make your mortgage payment and work your principal down, or you could take that money and go on the bus. Well, you can't go on the bus anymore because nobody's going on the bus, but I used to use this example. Get on the bus and go downtown with your friends from the community center, go see a play.
Right.
Maybe buy a plane ticket and go see your family. Just what do you worry about paying a house off that's already paid off or almost paid off when you can eliminate that payment and live out the rest of your life?
By the way, we'll remind you, whenever we talk to Mr. Hochberg, it's easy to get a hold of him. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. This is live from my office, and welcome to another exciting Zoom fun time with, listen, this is our friend Dr. Kevin Moe. Say hello, Doc.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on when you're listening to this, but glad to be back with you.
Dr. Kevin Most and the handsome devil beneath him, Brad Most, your brother. You guys would not have been able to go to college without the Evans Scholars Program. Brad, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I probably would have gone to some kind of beauty school or something like
that. No question. It definitely would have been beauty school.
Yeah, I mean, caddying, you talk to almost anybody who caddied. It's just one of their favorite jobs of their life. So we were lucky enough to not only make a good buck back in the day, it also, launched us into opportunities that we never would have been able to do. So
if you go to WGAESF, that's the Western Gulf Association Evan Scholars Foundation website. I just made my annual contribution the other day, and I hope you'll take a look at it because you're helping kids go to school. Speaking of college and youngsters in college, I had a handsome devil on the screen that we haven't introduced yet. Brad, you want to do the honors?
Sure. This is a young Mac Most. He is junior, University of Illinois, studying environmental science. And last year he was studying abroad, second semester. So he
came home to COVID.
Came home to COVID and was kind of forced home to COVID. And now on campus and down at University of Illinois going through COVID on campus for the first time.
And Mac, we know your roommate tested positively. Want to talk to you about what that means for you and what the whole experience is there, because generally speaking, we've heard that the University of Illinois is really doing it right. So stand by just a second for us. And Doc, let me go back to you here. This saliva test that the U of I has developed, how big a deal is it?
It's a big deal, and it's a big deal for a bunch of reasons. One, as we talked about testing all through this time, we've run out of supplies, we've run out of reagents, we've run out of swabs at different times, and we have a low number of the machines that we actually need for this. The beauty of this saliva test is it's pretty simple. We don't use any reagents, we don't need any other supplies. They've gotten the cost down to about somewhere between $5 and $10. And it's very easy to collect, and you don't have to have an expert with the nasopharyngeal swab, an expert actually doing it to make sure that you have the right specimen. This is as simple as spit in the cup, and then we'll work on that. So really good test, and glad that both Yale and University of Illinois open sourced this, which allows others to use it. And I think it could be a game changer if we don't get the breathalyzer test done in the next, couple months.
Yeah, you've spoken about that before in our regular calls. The breathalyzer test going to be on the holy grail of all of this, because it'd be not only the least invasive, really not invasive at all.
Yes, yeah. The breathalyzer obviously would be the best. If you think about it, we've all breathalyzer tests. You think, why are we concerned about COVID and the spread, and why are we all wearing masks? Because we know that it's droplets. So it's expelled from our back of our throat while we talk. So you can imagine if we did a breathalyzer's test, doing that, as long as we can get it so that we're capturing that, because that's exactly where the virus is. So it's great. And if we can do it and get the turnaround time, where it's seconds, then this could be mass produced and used in large quantities, where you need to get a large number of people through an area quickly, whether it be a sporting event, a school, or really, even a movie theater if we wanted to go to that extreme.
So Mac, prior to self-quarantining, if that's the right term for what you're doing now with your roommate being positive, what was campus life like, going building to building and just living your life in the first couple of days?
So I moved in pretty early. School started on Monday the 24th. I was here on the 12th. So I've been here for 2 weeks now. And honestly, I would say everyone's doing really well. I feel like 95% of people are wearing masks while outside. And if they're not, they're putting it on as you're walking past them or as a group's approaching them. I think students are taking it pretty seriously. In terms of, social life or other behavior like that, I think everything's definitely checked down. The first week, I think everyone was coming out of their homes, their quarantine COVID homes, or, seniors in high school who had just had an experience taken away from them were giddy to get going socially again. And so right there, you could tell that there's obviously people mixing more so than the university would like. That's why I think we've seen a little bit of a rise in positivity rate, but altogether, it seems like things are very different from what I'm used to. And there's a rare case of a night in Champaign when it looks exactly how it did last fall.
But it sounds like you certainly, and most of the people in your circle, if not most of the campus, understands the fastest way to get back to what college life is supposed to be is to wear the mask and social distance and do it now. as Dr. Most has told us for months.
Yeah, it seems that way. There's definitely people who have different opinions on it, and that's just because
Well, they're wrong.
not everyone's as educated as other people are, and I probably am misinformed on some stuff and informed correctly on other stuff. But some people have the mindset of, let me just get it and get it over with, and then I'll be good to go for the rest of the semester. Let me totally lock down. So, it's all kind of up in the air to what someone is going to do. It's hard to predict, just by seeing someone on the street or.
Well, it makes me feel good that you're telling us the majority of guys that or students that seem to be following the rules, in quotes, as we know them. Now, Brad Most, talk about the parent perspective on this. You and Ann, I mean, you raised Mac to take care of himself. He did a great job when he was abroad, but it's still a big deal in this COVID era to send your kid to school. So how do you feel with the U of I's handling of this from a parent's perspective?
I mean, I think that's, one of the things is you have a concern that anybody who's 20, if you remember back when we were all 20, and there is a sense of invincibility and the sense of, nothing can stop me. You're concerned about that part of it, but you're also, I have a great deal of comfort having him being at Illinois, seeing how they're testing, how frequently he can be tested, even in a situation where he has a roommate who's positive. He's being very responsible and going to get the test every day. He's getting his results later that day or the next morning. So there's a great deal of comfort. I think I saw a statistic that said something like Illinois was doing 1.5% of all the tests nationally, which is a remarkable number. There was sometimes.
But Dr. Most, isn't this the standardization of testing that you've been asking for since the spring? In other words, if the rest of the country were doing what U of I apparently is doing, we'd all be a lot better off.
Absolutely. And you look at U of I don't know how many students they have on campus, but if you look at that number and say, boy, how many cities in this country are that number or smaller? And I would bet you the number is fairly substantial.
Sure.
But they have a great organized view for it. They have great follow-up. They have a plan going forward. I really commend U of I, and I hope that they are the poster children or child of all universities to say, this is how we are going to do it. This is an opportunity for students at U of I to stand up, do the right thing. Boy, you will be remembered going forward. If you want to be a Yahoo and do all the parties like other schools have done, go right ahead. You're going to be one of the, also rans. But if you really want to be remembered as the school that made a difference, and you should be proud to say, I was at the U of I at this time during COVID, and this is what we did to change the whole educational process across this country. That's something that should be a rallying point for the chancellor and for all the students there.
Well, and again, Mac, to hit you where you live at your age, you want to get back to football, which, by the way, U of I has a football team that can actually play now. You want to get back to football or hoops or any other way to gather socially or just going to a bar. The only way you're going to get there is by doing the right thing right now. Is there any sort of real recognized out loud or maybe assumed peer pressure for the freshmen and sophomores to come in? In other words, if they see the juniors and seniors in masks, they're going to wear a mask?
It's hard to know because where I live is largely Greek life and other, upperclassmen living in apartments at this time. So I've really only been exposed to, very few people, but the people I do see walking around town, I recognize from who have been on campus for a long time, whereas freshmen are kind of packed into one corner of campus by the dining halls and the dorms and the private housing. So they're easy to pick out walking down the street, walking with a little pomp in their step, but it's hard to know whether there's kind of a social pressure going on between the two groups.
Yeah, and pretending they're not scared. That's how you can tell that they're freshmen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your roommate was diagnosed, which means you self-quarantine, as I said. That's what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's the number they have for us. It's something like September 11th or something like that.
Okay, so that's not that long to put up with it. What are you doing to occupy your time?
School just started, so I'm trying to get in a rhythm here. Kind of have a makeshift planner going on a three subject notebook. Need to get myself a little more organized. Been watching some NBA.
Would you be saying that if your dad wasn't on this call, if it was just your uncle and me?
Yeah, I would. No, trust me, it's what I've been spending my time on this morning. Eating well. We got ourselves a grill, so I've been out there a lot.
So
playing some one-on.
It's not terrible. I mean, it's not
No.
ideal, obviously, but it's very doable, right?
Yes, it's definitely doable. And my place is nice enough where we have 2 separate bathrooms, and so we're managing. Yeah, it's definitely doable.
Brad, has the school been accessible to you as a parent, or I know the website is pretty all-inclusive for people that have questions.
Yeah, they've been great in communicating to us, and a lot of it they're looking to the students directly just to be the adults in this situation. But there are periodic communications of saying, hey, remind your student to do this, or make sure they're doing that. There's an app I know that Mac uses to get his testing, and as an example, they sent us a letter saying, this app is available. Make sure your student downloads it and is following through on the testing. So.
Is that how you get in and out of class eventually, Mac? When you're back out there, you have to be tested, and then the app tells you whether you're good to go?
Yeah, so there's a status card on the app, and your options are building access granted or building access denied. And they have kind of a tier system. So green is recent antibodies, which means you had it and you've made it through, and you're clear for the next few weeks at least, I think. And then yellow would be recent negative test, and then it kind of trails off, and I don't remember the rest, but it gets worse, obviously, recent positive test.
Right.
And so you would have to show that if you wanted to go into a library, or if you had class that day, or for even kids who are going to bars, if they're open, they're having people show that. So yeah, it's kind of, it reminded me of the NBA bubble where they're all scanning their wristbands on the next room to say, I'm all good, I've been tested, I'm fine. So it's cool to have that tech, in your pocket ready to show.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Your dad mentioned when we were in college, not only was there no internet, we lived in log cabins, and we had to kill our own food. So, Doc, Mac mentioned a lot of kids are saying, again, what you've heard many times, which is, I just want to get it and get it over with. Explain why that's a bad idea.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. 1, 2, Mac, here. You can see that gray thing there, Mac? That's my PGA. I'm in the PGA Tour bubble this week. So that's how they know us. But yeah, it really is not the best idea, mainly because every college student who's coming home, whether it be at Thanksgiving or any other weekend, you're coming home to people who are most likely a vulnerable population. Most of your parents are going to be close to the age of 60, if not higher. You might have a grandparent living at home. You don't know who in your family or who in your friends are going to be around those individuals who are undergoing chemotherapy or have heart disease. So it's not as easy as let's just get it and get it over with. If that were the case, the best plan would be take all the college students, get them down there. Don't wait for them to get infected. Let's just infect them personally, blow it right in their face, make sure everybody stays down there. But we really don't know, too, how long individuals shed the virus. And again, it's not so much about you and these young college students surviving. It's more about exposing them to vulnerable populations that they don't even know about and continuing the spread of the illness.
And it's not just grandma. It's kids Mac's age or our age, that adults that have asthma or previous conditions, right, that could make things worse.
Oh, absolutely. You'd be surprised. There are more individuals now in immune suppressive drugs, whether it's for arthritis or lupus or many different conditions now. We're putting people on medications that actually impacts their immune system. So people don't even know how many are out there. It's just not the patients on chemotherapy, and it's just not the vulnerable. So, we're fortunate that this new strain seems to be a little bit less virulent. But we still know, just by looking at the numbers across the country, at the number of cases, the number of deaths, the number of hospitalizations are still very concerning as we enter, into this fall flu season.
So, Mac, is there anything you could say to worried parents, that aren't your parents, about life on campus right now?
I think the best thing you can say is that as we've coined it, the yahoos, the people who want that, who have that mindset, they're few and far between. Even, you'll see people sitting out on the park that are probably likely with their roommates, all still wearing masks. They've been exposed to them all day in the kitchen, but they're still going outside and they're saying, hey, let's do our part. And another thing is, it sounds like we're getting tested 2 times a week to the public, but you can get tested every single day if you want to.
Wow.
So they have the capacity. If you go during peak hours, it's a little bit of a wait, but I've got it down where I can be in and out of that testing facility in 3 minutes. It's pretty incredible. So I feel comfortable. I don't really know anyone who is, feels like they want to go home, feels unsafe. Obviously everyone's always a little on edge with this, with it going around. But no, I think everyone should feel comfortable down here.
Did you, prior to the saliva test, did you have the regular Q-tip up your nose test?
I had that once back home.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about it. I told Doc this. I had it with Northwestern Medicine, and the technician was great. It's not pleasant. It's not something you go, oh, can I do it again? But it's certainly not as bad as I've heard from a lot of people.
Right. I actually self-administered it in the CVS drive-through, and it took like 16 days to come back. So
wow.
My 2 experiences are pretty different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see you, Mac, and it sounds like you're doing a fabulous job of doing the right thing, and your roommate as well. And Brad, before we run out of time, every week on Live from My Office, I always plug a charitable cause. You know how I feel about Gilda's Club, and you've done a lot of work with Gilda's Club, especially in the last several months. So why don't we take a minute here so you can talk about what's going on there, because charities have been slammed by COVID.
Yeah, we have definitely been slammed, just in large part because, we rely on events to help fund us. A good chunk of our annual budget comes from events, fundraising events, and we just haven't been able to have any of those in person. So, we continue to block message out there to help people to donate. The other thing, though, is that, and Kevin can speak more to this, is that right now there just are fewer and fewer people that are having cancer screenings. So, there's a lot more people that are going to be impacted by cancer as COVID dies down, that are going to go through screenings and are going to realize that they're facing a new challenge. And so, we just want to let people know we're here to support them.
Yeah. And by the way, it doesn't cost you anything. That's the point of the donations and the point of the community. Everybody has been touched by cancer in one form or another. And no matter how close it is to you, know that Gilda's Club is there as a resource. And that's the whole reason they exist, is to make sure that people who are dealing with cancer on every level, from the patient to the spouse to the loved one to the kids to everybody in that circle, all gets taken care of. So what's the website if people want to donate?
It's gildasclubchicago.org. And, Kevin's and the hospitals are great partners with us, and they handle all the medical stuff. We're all the emotional and social support that kind of halos that.
And Dr. Mose, you get the last word here. Obviously, mask up and stay 6 feet away from everybody, no matter where you are on campus or at home or on the golf course or wherever you are. But what else do you want to add before we run out of time?
No, Steve, I think it is. It's interesting that you have a parent and a student on here. Both have been impacted, obviously, by COVID and how it's impacted their lives as well as their livelihoods and their passions. So everybody has a story, and we all just need to really stop and take a look at how it impacts us. For Brad and Mac, not only how it's impacted their family, Mac, how it's impacted school, for Brad, how it's impacted Gilda's Club. Let's all just try to be adults for a short period of time here, and we won't see the impact that we're starting to see on every single family, whether it be emotional, physical, psychological. But come on, it's something we can do, and we all have to do it together.
Yeah. Everybody doesn't want to do it. Everybody needs to do it. Everybody should do it. And we'll all get back to life faster than ever. And hopefully we'll remember this experience in positive ways because there are a lot of positives that have come out of this terrible year.
Yes.
All right. So, Doc, enjoy the BMW. I hope you keep all the players healthy. Sorry we can't be there with you. Mac, I'm happy for you, bud. I've known Mac since he was a zygote. And I couldn't be more thrilled for you. And you're really dealing with this at the U very well. So I'm proud of you for that. And Brad, thank you as always.
Thank you.
So, Doc, we'll do another update in a few days. This is live from my office, live on Zoom. Thank you, boys.
Thanks.
If you have a charitable organization you'd like me to mention, talk about, plug, hype, whatever the word might be for you, let me know about it. Send me information at thecochranshow@gmail.com. That's the official email for Live from My Office. Again, that's thecochranshow@gmail.com. I want to tell you for a second here about Let It Be Us. If you listen to the radio show, you've heard me talking about it. My son Ross and my daughter-in-law Lauren became foster care licensed parents, and we're able to help out and will again in the future in foster care. Because here in Illinois, where we do Live from My Office, it's remarkable how bad the state of Illinois is at foster care, if not dead last statistically near there. It's inexcusable for a state with everything that Illinois has going for it to be that bad at this most important thing. Let It Be Us is an organization that's unlike any other that I'm familiar with because they promote foster care to adoption. They get you licensed, and they teach you how to be a foster care parent first. And if you want to pursue adoption, they'll help you along that path as well. And if you go to letitbeus.org, you can donate right there. You can find out how to participate right there through volunteering or participating in one of their events as well. You can be licensed to do foster care or respite care. Respite care is where you take care of a foster care child where the existing foster care parent is able to get out and do some of the things they otherwise couldn't do. As I said, they'll help you adopt. They have these information fairs that you can attend to find out what it's going to take for you to do what maybe is tugging at your heart, and I hope it is. There's literally thousands of children waiting for your love, and every kid deserves to be loved. And you can literally change the world in this messed up year of 2020. I can't think of a better thing for you to do than to find out more at letitbeus.org. That's LETITBEUS, letitbeus.org. And thank you in advance. Many thanks, and mostly to you, for listening to Live from My Office. Of course, you can subscribe, and I hope you will, wherever you get your podcasts. Next time Dr. Kevin Most is on, we're going to talk about the flu shots. Should you get them now? Should you wait a little bit? It's a big deal, because if the flu is huge this fall and winter, at the same time we're still dealing with COVID, it's not going to be pretty. So again, I'll get with Dr. Most on that in the coming days. In the meantime, I hope that you take care of yourself and stay healthy. Don't be a mask hole. Pull that mask up. Stay at least 6 feet away from everybody until further notice, and we will beat this thing. I tell you what's going on at the University of Illinois is a pretty good example of that. I'm Steve Cochran, and as always, I thank you for listening to Live from My Office. Don't forget to go to cochranshow.com and check out everything we have there. And follow me on social media, on Facebook at Cochran Show, on Twitter at Cochran Show, and on Instagram, it's Steve Cochran Show. By the way, I'm still doing the Trump dump on Twitter, where for the 100 days leading up to the election, each day I give you another nugget of Trump. One other thing he did, which is so non-presidential, it's stunning. But we're all numb to it. And frankly, we need to hear it again, because time's flying. We're already inside of 70 days. So follow me on Twitter at Cochran Show, and I'll give you a new Trump dump every day as well. All right, enough of the entertainment and the podcast for now. I hope you had fun. I know I had fun bringing it to you, and we'll do it again on Live from My Office.
from My Office is a service of Monkey Run Productions, all rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and follow Steve on all social media channels. Get in touch with us directly with questions or comments about the show by emailing thecochranshow@gmail.com. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.